Hello, everybody. It has been a while since we had our last hang. New friendships, and teenagers get always crazy in any generations. So we have some experience. We have, at least I have, the white hair and things like that. So let's combine our experiences, meaning Sophie experiences, Peter experiences, and my own experiences, and try to get 9 ways of preparing teenagers for life. So, Sophie, as always, I give you the floor first. And Sophie just frozen. and she frozen in a funny thing because she was like, okay. But I think I could hear. Yeah.
Yeah, she's back.
Sophie's back.
Can you hear us?
It is funny because, like Murphy's Law, 5 minutes ago we were talking about the weather that in Sweden and in England the weather is finer than in Portugal at this time of the year, what is really strange. And suddenly maybe it's raining again in Sweden. They have like 50 days without rain. Sophie, are you with us, or you are still freezing or frozen? Well, now we have a picture of Sophie like praying to the gods of
Yeah, fine.
No, so okay. You can what, Sophie? We would love to hear with you. So, Sophie,
Can you hear me?
We hear you, but with cuts. So, can I advise you one thing, to go out of the room and enter again? It's like a Microsoft solution, and I will pass the floor first to Peter. If you can hear me, please do that. Peter, tell me, one way.
I'm back in a minute.
No, you're not.
No, you're not.
You think that you are back. So let's go for Peter. Sophie, please leave and enter again.
You can hear me okay?
Yes, perfectly.
Great.
London is fine.
Okay, so my first tip is to ride the horse the way it is going. And what I mean by that is every child, every human being has sort of natural things that they're interested in and seem to find more easy. And I think parents and teachers often push them down a track that they think they should go down because this is where they'll make more money, or this is what this is what I did for a job, or this is what your grandparents did. And I think we have to acknowledge that every person's different. And I know this, I don't know, I'd be interested to hear your experience, Philip, but my 2 children are very different. And my eldest one, since he was about 2 or 3 years old, we always felt that he was going to be an engineer. He loved pulling things apart. He loved to understand how things worked, anything practical that he could do with his hands. And he was also quite bright, and he just was drawn to those kind of subjects. So guess what he's now doing? He's a design engineer for a robotics company. Now, his younger brother, that would be the last thing he would want to do. His younger brother is very different, not so inclined to sit down and do hours of study and lots of reading and so on. He's much stronger with languages. He's much more interested in people. So, he's going to go down a very different path, but it's really important to not try and make them go down a path that's not natural for them or doesn't feel right for them. So whatever you spot in terms of their interest. Now, if they're interested in drugs, well, maybe that's something that is a deeper issue, that you need to understand why they want to take drugs to numb out some sort of pain. But generally, even small children, you can see they have an interest in things. So ride the horse the way it's going.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, now I think the Microsoft solution of getting out, it's working. We have an echo.
Yeah, there's an echo. But is it echoing when I'm speaking?
No, not to me.
No. Okay. I will give it a try. Now I'm on the broadband. I'm not on the Wi-Fi, so hopefully it will work. Like last week, I was at a huge conference and I met the founder of Suicide Zero in Sweden. And I learned a lot about suicides by listening to one of their lessons that they had, one of their seminars. And one of the things that I learned is that when you are a teenager and you're not feeling well, you're not likely to talk to your parents or an adult. You're more likely to talk to another person in your own age. So what you need to do is to educate all young people into a mental health program in how to deal with difficulties in life. And what, as far as I know, I've not heard about any schools that has like a life science course about how to handle difficult situations in life. And I know that, you know, when you're a teen and you end high school or gymnasium or A levels, you may not be prepared for life after that. And of course, it's a shock. So my suggestion is to all governments around the world to start this life science course where people can learn and they'll also learn how to spot that someone else is not feeling well. Because if you can spot that someone is not feeling well, you may very well prevent that they kill themselves. And there is a model in Miami, in the United States, in Florida, and they set up like a scheme at school. So now they almost have no young people killing themselves any longer because they are more prepared. They have school counselors working together with all the teachers, and they have included this life science knowledge into the normal education. So I think that's fantastic. I heard about this model now, and I wanted to raise that point as my first point. Thanks.
Good.
Thank you, Sophie, for that. Actually, my first point connects with what you were saying, because I think that one of the mistakes that parents are doing nowadays is to try to ease the pain of the child and also of the teenager. So they cannot be frustrated in any way. Mm. Frustration is something that parents are like, okay, we don't want them to feel any pain. So they cannot wait for the parents for more than 15 minutes because it's painful. They cannot not have something. So, and that also connects with another thing, that this is the I think that is the way of preparing teenagers for life, is to give them autonomy and responsibility. Because in that way they will feel frustration because they did their own decisions and they got things wrong and got things right. Because sometimes I see that parents are not giving that possibility from early ages to kids because they are not able to do that. They start by saying that they are not able, that they are basically useless. This is something that parents are not saying like, okay, my child is useless. No. They cannot do yet that. They cannot do it. They cannot do. And they don't understand that they are creating frustration. We have to challenge them to do stuff. But at the same time, they have to have the responsibility of doing it. And it should be step by step, step by step. You don't keep the full responsibility of the house, but you go step by step, from early age, and you enter teenage time with a sense that you can do stuff, that you are responsible, that you have autonomy, that people believe in you. I see a lot of young people that have low self-esteem, and at the same time, if you search a little bit of the origin, you see that parents were like, don't do it, I do it for you because you don't know how to do it. And that's going across the years. So when they have to deal with something that the parents are not there, they have a huge frustration. So that's my first takeaway. So Now continue with the order. Peter.
Okay, well, I'm going to choose the one I had third only because it builds on what you've just said. So I'm going to continue that theme. I think it's really important to help teenagers understand that success, you know, and they all want to be successful and happy in life. Success comes from personal growth, and personal growth comes from dealing with pressure and learning from mistakes. So yes, I agree that I think parents, and I've done it a little bit myself. My wife has certainly done it, where we want to protect them. We don't, you know, because early in their life, our job is to protect them. You know, a baby is helpless, and we need to make sure that it's got the right temperature and the food's right, and that it, you know, it's not exposed to danger. And we have to start letting go. And as you say, bit by bit over time. So by the time they're teenagers, they're now in that period between being a child and being an adult, and it's a very important period where they can start to take more responsibility. And you know, we in our modern Western culture, we have this thing that everything should be easy and everything should be instant, and of course that, you know, we are wired for struggle and growth. That's how anything works. Our brain works by being a little bit stressed. Our muscles grow by being a bit stressed, and it's the same with us as people. So I think it's important to let them have challenges, praise them for having a go, even if they fail or don't quite make it. At least they made a real effort. You know, if they make mistakes, you know, help them take the lessons away from the mistakes and the disappointment. Because that's part of life, and then they'll feel much better about themselves, as you said, Filipe. It's you know, that's where the self-esteem comes from, is the sense of I can do things for myself. It's a fantastic feeling.
Sophie, your turn. Don't forget the microphone.
Yes. Yeah. No, like I was thinking about this yesterday, and when I was a teen myself, there were like very little knowledge sharing about what kind of career path you should pick, and it was like really badly presented, all of these kind of things. And well, and I've been like switching career again a little bit lately, and I still feel like there's really poor information out there for anyone to grab about what kind of career you should grab or you should go for. So, like for instance, if you are like a GP, a general practitioner doctor, you see patients all day, and then maybe you do some research 1 day per week, and you do another thing 1 day per week. If you do work like in marketing, which I've done before, you may be working with huge events, or you may be working with products, you may be working with something else, but it's like very different kind of paces. Like the rhythm in your job is driven by different things, and I think for me that would have been really useful to know more about that when I was younger, because if you're like working as a nurse, you're working in a hospital, who is your customers? Yeah, well, it's your patients. If you work with what do you call it, like a normal organization selling something, who is your clients? Well, the people who are probably going to buy something from you. So I think like having a more holistic view of your future career and who you're going to help may give you another sort of direction in where to go as an adult. Does it make sense, or is it totally? But I just think like, you know, we need some deeper career counseling, not just your interests, like who are you really going to help? And that is maybe will give you more advice about who you are and what you would like to do for the next few years. Yeah, that's my thoughts.
And just to build on that, going back to what I said, I think sometimes people have things they're interested in, and sometimes they seem to have a slightly more natural talent for things. Like my younger son seems to have a talent for picking up languages. So I think we have to marry their interests and their skills with a market. You know, who are the people that would want what you have, and that's part of what you're talking about, isn't it?
Yeah. No, I think we need to go deeper in that, because work life in the future is going to be even more complex.
Yeah.
And there's like I don't know, 500 new jobs that we don't even know exists.
Yeah.
So
And the problem is most people giving advice are coming from the past, where so many jobs are disappearing, and more in the next generation than ever. One of the biggest categories of employment is driver, and that category is going to start disappearing. So yeah, it's a challenge, but it's important.
And building on that, I would say that we have to talk about skills for the 21st century. And for me, it is very, very important to focus on focus and self-discipline, because the reality that teenagers have nowadays is completely different from the previous centuries. We have the most stimulated teenagers ever in the history of mankind. They have access to a lot of things at the same time. It's like before we went to a restaurant and there was like 2 dishes on the menu. And now they have 10,000 dishes on the menu. So the restaurant experience is completely different. Imagine if you go to a restaurant and you have to decide between 10,000 dishes, from which, let's say, 7,000 you like. It is completely crazy. So one of the things that I think that the older generation like us should focus is help them in having focus and self-discipline. And that starts from small behaviors, like when we talk, there is no things like this. We have to talk eye to eye contact. Very important, non-verbal communication. Also, how to find time to think deeply on stuff. And that connects with critical thought, because we can have different skills in terms of technical skills, of things that we have to know how to do stuff, but critical thought is still a huge tool, and nowadays even more. That's why, for instance, we have so many fake news and things like this that are effective. It's not because there wasn't before fake news. We had these kind of newspapers that were sold completely with fake news, but people had more critical thought. Now it's like there is no filter in their mind. So that is because lack of critical thought. So we need to debate more, we need to talk more in order to have that critical thought. So focus, self-discipline, and critical thought. So Peter, your last one.
I would say give them a copy of How to Win Friends and Influence People. I mean, seriously though, there are many books out that cover those sort of things. There are many places you can get that information. But what I find really interesting is that book was written in 1935, and I recently went into a bookshop near my home because I wanted to give my eldest son a copy, and I asked about it and they knew straight away where it was. They said it's over there. It's still a bestseller. You can still find it in bookshops today, even though there are thousands of books. The point is this, that it's about developing people skills. And building on what you said, Filipe, it's those the distractions that exist today. People start to lose basic human communication skills, and it's so important to be able to know how to connect with people, how to influence them, because it determines everything in life, your relationships, your success in your career, everything. So my youngest son and I have been interviewing, he's got a project for school, and we've been interviewing owners of restaurants. And as soon they very generously give an hour or two of their time for this extensive interview. And I always say to him afterwards, I say, so what do we do after someone's generously given their time? So, he always remembers to send them a thank you note. And it's just those basic skills that make a difference, and it helps you to stand out from so many people who don't think about those things. So buy them a copy of How to Win Friends and Influence People, a book that's nearly a century old and is still a bestseller today.
Peter, I think that we even might say that the new elite will not be the ones that are the best students, the best professionals. It will be the new, or let's say the people that dominate these kind of skills and are great influencers, great communicators.
Yeah, yeah, it's definitely the most important skill of all, and it's, you know, certainly in the work I do in the corporate world, it's kind of the thing that we focus on the most. You know, these are highly successful people who are making fundamental errors and wondering why they're struggling. And, you know, when we go back to the basics of how you communicate and influence, that makes their life easier. So, you know, if teenagers can learn that stuff early, it's going to be an easier life for them, as in a better life. You know, and what I was saying before is there are struggles and challenges in life, but you know, they're not going to create unnecessary stress and struggle.
I was saying that it's a new elite because we are seeing that most of them have this problem. So if a small percentage are good at it, and we see some YouTube phenomena going like this. So, okay, Sophie, your turn.
So yeah, no, I'm going to build on what Peter just said, and I think that you learn enormous amount of new skills if you're involved in things like the student government of your school, or if you take part in any kind of organizing committee in your sport club or any other kind of organization. And I think that when I was a kid, for instance, or a young teen, I went on a peace project trip to Berlin, and then we went on to the concentration camps and had a look around there. And I think when you are quite young, you are receptive to these kind of things in another way. And if more people are involved in organizations that are promoting peace or self-leadership, or you learn how to communicate better, this kind of skills will stay with you longer. So you will be 20 years ahead of your colleagues if you do a few of these things when you are like between 13 and 19, instead of doing that as an adult. Yeah. And yeah, so anyway, my third recommendation is for all young people around, do something that is like a bit new to you and get involved, and don't be scared of being involved, because that's when you learn new things.
And it's time for my last one. And this one maybe can be a bit controversial, is that nowadays I see that parents are pushed to buy out everybody. The kids, the wife, the lover, everybody. Give them a lot of stuff, but don't give them time. And I think it's a big issue, that parents are not giving quality time to kids. And quality time doesn't mean that you are always present like a helicopter over the kids, but it means that when you are talking with them, you talk with them. You go for a walk and you talk, and you engage in a good talk. It's not like talk in front of the TV, like talking about the game. It's going without distractions. It doesn't mean that you don't go to a football match, that you don't see a TV show together. It doesn't mean that you don't do that. Create quality time, give time to talk. And also, that is a huge opportunity to understand how the future will be. Because when you start talking with them, you get a glimpse of the future, of how things will be in the future. Because their way of thinking will be the dominant way in the next years. So things will change, and you can have a kind of glimpse of the things that are changing. So that's my last advice. Guys, do you want to add anything else?
No. It's interesting what you said about how they think is a glimpse into the future, but of course some of how they think is influenced by us, and how we think and how we behave around them. So of course we
They have
ourselves,
their interpretation about what we think.
yeah, that's right. But we ourselves as parents and teachers can contribute to shaping the future by, you know, by our own leadership and demonstration of things, because many people have said, oh my God, I hear myself talking and it's my mother or it's my father, you know, and I swore I would never do that. So, you know, we pick up those patterns and play them out in our own way. But I think, you know, if we become better as parents and teachers, then that helps as well, because they are a combination of us and the world that, you know, they want to create.
You know, let me give you only one. This also will be very controversial, but is my kid's theory. I kind of support it, but it's his theory. My oldest kid is working sometimes with younger kids. Like he's now 18 and he's working with kids since like he was 15. He was working with kids like younger, like 3-4 years younger, and he's very autonomous, and he sees a lot of kids that don't have that sense of autonomy and they don't do anything, and he has to support them in every single activity. And he was giving his theory about what these younger generations, that is funny because he's talking about younger generations, are so not autonomous. And two theories. One is that parents are taking kids to their school by car all the time. So they don't go by public transportation, they don't walk, they don't go by bicycle. It's like parents became chauffeurs. This is one theory. The second one is more crazy, is there is no longer enough bullying.
Enough what?
Bullying in school. Meaning that bullying is such a subject.
Oh, right.
Why
Yes.
bullying from schools, that there is no bullying. So kids don't have this sense of how I have to defend. It's a kind of primary skill, how I defend myself from others that are stronger than me, that can harass me, how I defend myself. And if you take that from our animal part, we are hopeless in many situations. Crazy theory. Maybe he's right in some way.
Yeah, that's really interesting, isn't it? Because people are trying to stamp it out. And you know, going back to the point I was making about, you know, strength comes from dealing with pressure. You know, diamonds are created, you know, from pressure. And yeah, we're trying to remove those things, and it's a difficult one, isn't it? You know, if you do too much, you know, bullying can drive a child to suicide. But you know, it's not. I've always said that it's not just taking or trying to remove some of those pressures, because you're going to have them in life. It's about helping them to develop the skills to deal with it, which is, I think, to your point. Because okay, a school might, you know, have a policy of no bullying and, you know, completely remove it, and then people go into the workplace and guess what? They have to confront bullying. You know, it goes on and in all kinds of ways. And you know, yeah, we'd like to think that, you know, we live in a world where it doesn't happen, but I'm more interested in how people learn to deal with it. So yeah, it is controversial, and maybe it's a topic for a further discussion.
Yeah. Sophie, do you want to add anything else?
No, nothing. I was just, when you were talking about thinking about this, like resilience that you need to build up, and it takes time.
Yeah.
You know, it does.
Okay, guys, as always, it was a pleasure to talk with you. We will meet after the holidays, I hope, to do another one. maybe we got some ideas here also to a new topic. So thank you very much for sharing, Peter, Sophie, for sharing your ideas, your thoughts. It's always a learning experience, not only for the people that are watching, but also for me. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.